So Roger, we had this opportunity to chat and have a conversation around development of social media experience management and talk around some of the trends in the industry. So I was looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So was I.
To start with, when we look at social media, we traditionally tended to look at the space as just another digital CX channel, another path for customers to reach out to their brands. It was very common for people to go on social media, Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, to try to contact a company, post a general comment or resolve an issue. And if they couldn't contact a direct phone number or web chat, they would use this channel. Today, I would say that more or less the role of social media is more focused on kind of extension of the brand, where user communities, customer support, and online sales are all integrated. The product reviews on marketplaces, the comments on third-party review sites, the user-generated content in dedicated forums such as Reddit, all these are parts of the customer experience and the brand engagement. And on top of this, we have the growth of social selling, further blurring the line between company-managed social channels and kind of the wider online space, usually controlled by a third party. And we can talk a lot more about, multimodal customer engagement, where social experience management is just the key element. But as a result of this blurring of the support and sales lines, organizations now need a more mature playbook for social experience management, supported by robust operations, by advanced tools, analytics for social listening, monitoring, analysis, engagement, crisis management, marketing and sales, as we mentioned. When talking to organizations, we are seeing two clear trends. One is the importance of social channels. For example, 93% of the executives we surveyed see social experience management as highly important to their company's future success. And the other trend is the expanded role of social experience management for marketing and sales to drive growth. And we had some very good quotes from managers directly along those lines. And finally, an important function of social media is using analytics to measure the market's perceptions of the brand, check customer feedback in real time, identify new products and services, profile the target buyers, and even identify unmet customer needs. So I was looking at, from your perspective, how much would you say this is part of the picture for when you're talking to social media experience clients, when you're discussing with prospects around their main needs in the space?
You talk a lot about the delineations between brand social, outsource social, the lines of the different, what we would call product sets underneath the blanket of social experience management, which really is in and of itself a product set under the larger blanket of trust and safety. From a conversation perspective with either current client partners or potential client partners and what we're hearing in the marketplace, I always start by chatting with them under the guise of, because really social starts with the brand side, right? So the brand side is generally making the decisions on, brand marketing side is generally making decisions on who they're going to work with from a vendor perspective, whether that is a digital agency or record, a social media agency or record. And once they've developed those brand strategies and they develop that brand content and content calendars and promotions, really that's what they do well, right? Brand marketing works really well with those other agencies. And they build online social communities, whether that's on Facebook, historically, or the meta platforms like Instagram or X. And it's definitely broadened out, and we'll get into that a little bit during our discussion. But the conversation for me that always resonates so well is that marketers' job is to be a marketer, right? So the byproduct of doing good marketing and working with their agencies is that they build these very large online communities, hundreds of thousands of followers, if not tens of millions of followers for some of our brand on sites like Facebook and TikTok and X and Instagram. And the byproduct of that, of having these large online communities and places where consumers are engaging with their marketing content, their promotion content, and even just their day-to-day lifestyle content, is that you've built a very large community. And now when the community has a question or when the community has a concern, those people are going to reach out to have those concerns met on their channel of choice, which is in many cases, especially for younger and younger demographics who are becoming buyers now, who've grown up with social media, that is their channel of choice, right? So our conversation with marketers and brand managers and PR managers is always the same and is always well received. And that is, you know that you need to meet your customers on their channel of choice, but why don't we let you do what you do best, which is marketing? And why don't you let a customer service agency come in like ResultsCX and help you develop a more comprehensive social media customer care playbook, right? A lot of times we see these brands have very robust promotional playbooks and content playbooks, but when they get into the care area, sometimes there's some very blurred lines around who should own that content, who should own that online response. Is it a product team, whether that's happening somewhere on like a reputation management site, or is it your social team, like from your marketing team who's answering stuff on certain one of those sites? And we would argue that it really should be a customer care agency like ResultsCX that comes in and helps you with those playbooks. It helps you really build around each one of those social product sets. Results really looks at multiple social media customer care products. So the extension of the phone and the old school or the historic call center has went from phone to email, bled into web chat in some areas, back office work, but it's inevitably ended up on social media channels. So you have that extension from what we call in our business omni-channel, making sure that if someone calls in, they're getting the same response as if they complained or had a question on Facebook. And then we have digital reputation management, where if you're an e-commerce brand or if you're a retail brand, every one of your retail locations has a Yelp page, and every one of your retail locations has a Google Maps page where someone can leave a review, or someone can either leave a review or someone can leave a question. Similarly, if your brand is doing reseller selling on Amazon or a third-party reseller site, if you're a manufacturing brand and you're selling on Target or you're selling on Home Depot or Lowe's, you need to moderate the reviews that come into those sites so that when people have a negative experience, they know that by looking at a negative review that your brand's responding quickly and that there's a path to resolution when they have an issue with the product. And then lastly, and really a very large growing area, is content moderation and community management, right? So user-generated content, like you discussed, is becoming more and more prevalent across many, many digital marketplaces and many, many digital areas. And you need a brand moderating that content, whether it's done from an AI perspective or whether it's done from an actual physical human looking at that content to make sure that it's safe content and follows community guidelines. So I think that, when you talk about all of those things together, it becomes very evident very quickly that they're just like you would deal with a digital agency who would put together a comprehensive playbook. There's a need for a comprehensive playbook when it relates to social media customer care.
Thanks, Roger. Yeah, these are great points. In many respects, the playbook is the starting point, right, for defining the entire vision of the brand on how they're going to be positioned on social media. So let's break down these a little bit different products that you mentioned that ResultsCX is delivering, starting with social media customer care. From what we've analyzed and what we discussed, even within the survey of the clients, we've figured out that effective management of social media customer care is a very highly complex operation. I'm sure you will agree with this. There are multiple facets to it: the processes, the people, the technology. For example, in the client survey, we discovered that the most important element for executives, I think 92%, is the omnichannel monitoring and response across their various social media properties, but at the same time it receives a relatively low satisfaction score of 51%. For brands, the common requirements are to unify those channels, centralize operations, standardize delivery, extend operating hours, add different languages, become truly multilingual, and develop best practices for social media agent retention. On top of mind for many of those companies is improving the accuracy of social media interventions, resulting from these mature social experience management playbooks that we discussed. And an interesting development, and I think you mentioned this, is the company's vision to offer a single source for contact center and social experience management. This is actually a diversion from the traditional models where we had a dedicated social media command center, and I think this evolution reflects an understanding of the social experience management as an integral part of the CX delivery. And another future challenge is identifying the balance between automated and human-led social media responses. Among the leading sectors with specific investment plans are banking, financial services, retail and e-commerce, and telecoms and media. So from your perspective, what are the kind of the key features of a successful social media customer care operation?
Yeah, I think you brought up a lot of good points there. So when you talk about the playbook being kind of the centralized starting point, that is, I would say, a massive understatement. I think a lot of brands don't have that today. And when we bring that up, I think it becomes evident that it's a real clear need. So we take that as a starting point in our engagement, and we look at things like brand voice. So you talk about like, how do we respond in a way that is brand aligned? How do we respond in a way that provides a path to resolution, provides empathy, provides personalization, right? Those are all very key components of what we would call a perfect social media engagement from a customer care perspective, right? You want to be empathetic, you want to be personal, but you want to be on brand and on brand voice, but most of all, you want to provide a path to resolution, right? Like that's why if someone's engaging, you could be super personable and super empathetic, but at the end of the day, if you're just given a robotic answer, or if you're just given, oh, well, here's a link to contact us here, which we know is just going to send you to another email channel, or something that's not going to be a chat that actually engages directly with them in an asynchronous way. So we start by looking at their marketing playbooks, and we pull out their brand voice documents, right? And then also it's identification of the correct agents, right? The correct customer engagement social media agents, because most of the times these teams are a little bit smaller than your larger call center teams, even though they're integrated, right? We still have primary points of contact that handle social, even if they are doing for maximum occupancy utilization, other lines of business, maybe back office lines of business like web chat or email. What you want to make sure that the person and the team that you've selected have good quality scores, and they have low attrition and good schedule adherence, because all of those things are going to make your team successful. We also look at it as a career pathing. If this is set up inside of your BPO operation, your outsourcing operation, this really needs to be looked at as the best of the best specialists are on this. It's a career path for them, right? So that you're getting the people who really understand the brand, have longest tenure, they know they have the tribal knowledge of how to answer for the brand. But it is a really robust omni-channel strategy that really needs to happen. If you want to increase your CSAT, if you want to increase your net promoter scores, you really need to make sure that you're cultivating a team dynamic that has your best of the best specialists, so that others on that team will want to join that team. And then, it's overlaying best practices for the knowledge that we have for doing this for dozens and dozens of brands across the globe, right? There are some things that carry over from brand to brand, right? You need to have quick response times. You need to have clearly defined ways that customers understand how that you're going to re-engage with them. If you have hours of operation from, let's say, 8 to 8 or 8 to 10, you need that, it's us coaching brands that you need to be able to make sure that customers who come understand that. So after hours, either you're going to be waiting as a customer, or you're going to be answered by AI, right? Which is becoming more, especially with the rise of generative AI, is becoming more and more integrated into the day-to-day social media engagement. A lot of times it's level 1 or even level 1 and level 2, trying to feed that right knowledge content to the person who's coming in, whether that's on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or anywhere that someone's engaging with your brand. It's the number one question we're being asked today, right? It's, how does the generative AI services and artificial intelligence, how is that going to play into our long-term strategy? And really the answer is that it's going to play a huge part in not just your day-to-day call centers for IVRs and for day-to-day call centers for things like web chat integration, but for things like Apple Business Chat, which would fall under your social experience management, or things like WhatsApp for Business or your Facebook Messenger, or anywhere that someone engages across social. These have huge implications to take overall direct agent to customer contact volume down, while still providing a very, very high level of net promoter score and CSAT, because you're getting to the path of resolution most quickly. So
Would you care to share an example? I believe we even within the within the research that we did, we included some very strong example there. So would you care to share a client story, maybe in abbreviated form?
Sure. I think that, from a social care, just a general omni-channel extension of social media of social media customer care on those native and what we would consider, it's kind of silly to say now, but over a decade, historic social media channels like Facebook, X, and Instagram. We've had quite a bit of success with a number of our clients, but we've had specifically, I can think of a large streaming service brand that we engage with who came to us when we were doing a lot of their other lines of business, right? So we were supporting their phone, we were supporting email, we're supporting web chat. And they said, we have this issue. We're doing social media. It's expensive for our marketing resources to engage. It's expensive for our product resources to engage. You all already have the knowledge base articles to answer these questions. In fact, you're answering most of these questions on other lines of business. So is there a way that, our budget's not increasing, but really what we need is we need to be able to utilize the same budget we have, and we need to be able to have more resources, right? Isn't that what everyone always needs? They need more support for less money. But that's a problem that we hear a lot, especially in today's economy with, recession is real, inflation is real, and it's affecting brands at all levels, right? So marketing budgets are are lessening, and customer service budgets are lessening. So we really are a valuable partner, because what we can do, and what we did for this brand, is we took their whole social media response, their whole product, their whole response strategy, and we brought it in-house. And we were able to take it into a geography for them that was much cheaper, but they did not lose. In fact, the quality scores, net promoter scores, customer status scores, all went up. And then we were able to staff not just their current hours of operation, extended hours of operation, and we were able to staff over the weekends, which they had never done before, which you can imagine coming in on a Monday as a customer service response agent and having hundreds, if not thousands, of things that have come in on Saturday and Sunday when people are utilizing their streaming services, right? And they're having issues. So your Monday is just literally bogged down with all of those over weekend engagements that really someone who reached out on social probably anticipated being responded to on that Saturday or that Sunday, right? So now we have basically 7-day-a-week operation, extended hours of operation. So of course, customer satisfaction scores went up, right? And we were able to train all of those specialists. And these were tenured specialists who had already engaged for that brand on other lines of business. So there wasn't a ton of training around what was the right response and what was the right path to resolution. What our training really surrounded around was what social media tool set are we using, right? So, for them it was a Sprinkler, which is a partner that we engage with quite a bit, right? But whether it's, we're kind of tool agnostic, whether it's Sprinkler, whether it's Khoros, whether it's Salesforce Social Studio, Sprout, Amplify, it doesn't really matter. We will engage with those tool sets for the brand as an extension of that brand. And really that was the biggest training portion for them, was understanding the new tool sets that they were going to use, understanding maybe some areas inside of those tool sets that this client hadn't utilized well. So like tagging so that they can get better reporting on the things that they're responding to, right? So we're able to do that. We're also doing some things like looking at sentiment and doing sentiment adjustments so they get a true sentiment of the things that we're responding to. So we're not just doing the response portion, we're also helping them with bettering their analytics, because we're feeding better information into the tool sets that they're using. And lastly, the other part of training was training their brand voice. Specifically, this client, which is great, has a bunch of different streaming areas. And some of those streaming areas have customers who have more of a Americana country feel. Some of those streaming areas have more of a urban feel, right? So what you're looking at is you're not looking at the same brand voice when you respond. So we really take that into consideration. Like I said, we are social customer service experts, and a lot goes into making that, right? And that expertise, you really have to look at the full thing and what is this specific customer going to need for them to walk away and say, wow, that experience, even though I had an issue or a question, that experience could not have been any better with this brand.
No, this is an excellent example, and it shows kind of the full spectrum of what we'll be discussing, from kind of the simpler optimization of operation that allows you to now support 24/7, extend to these weekends that you mentioned, to these more advanced, more customized, personalized experience and customer journeys that you're delivering. So I want to keep you on this topic, on this brand voice and the brand positioning. As we interviewed the clients, the respondents for our research, executives looked at their brand positioning and digital reputation management as a top priority. They identified very specific challenges within their current management services to deliver this digital reputation management. For example, many of them answered that they would ideally like to increase the proportion of posts that are covered, and of course the timeliness of these responses. Roughly half of the surveyed respondents said that their crisis management approach is relatively mature, but at the same time, there is significant room for improvement, and this was especially true for the banking and financial services. There were some specific active steps that are required across industries, actually, in governance, analytics and reporting, delivery organizations, the tool set, as you mentioned, the whole spectrum of platforms that are either already part of the infrastructure of the organization, or they're looking to explore or upgrade or optimize. And then, of course, improving the social media operating models. I wanted to laser focus a little bit on the retail and e-commerce space. I know that digital reputation management is a very high priority for those sectors. We found this throughout the research. And it makes a lot of sense, right? These are organizations that now have years of experience in online sales, where the relationship between the brand and the user is a lot more democratized, and it's a lot more empowering for consumers.
Yeah, so it's such a huge area. It's in really digital reputation management. If you're an e-commerce or a retail brand and you don't have a robust strategy for this, you're really missing the mark, right? Because, if you think about it, let's say you're a retailer and you have 200 locations, or you have 2,000 locations, or 5,000 locations. Every one of those locations has a Yelp page. Every one of those locations has a Google Maps page, right? Because it's geolocation specific. So if you go to Google and you type in for my area, whatever the large retailer is, or your large grocery chain is, or whatever, and you type in near me, you're going to get these hyper-focused things on the right-hand side of Google, which is your listings, right? Your location listings. And you'll go into those and you'll notice there's hundreds of reviews that are left, right? Well, what works better? Training someone at store level at 2,000 locations, so 2,000 store managers, to moderate their specific store and respond in a quick way. What you're going to end up with is 2,000 people who do it 2,000 different ways. Some of them are going to respond quickly, some of them are going to respond slowly, some are going to respond empathetically, some are going to respond robotic, right? And really, if you could, pulling all of those into a comprehensive strategy and having a small team of people who are pulling all of those in with all of your other social data makes so much more sense. It's so much more effective, and it's so much better customer experience, because it doesn't matter if I ask retailer A a question in Des Moines, Iowa, and I ask them a question in Tallahassee, Florida, I'm going to get the same answer, right? Similarly, if you think about that, you're thinking about those thousands of locations across all these different digital properties. The same thing is true, if not more true, for e-commerce. So when you walk into a store, you're seeing tens of thousands of products, right? What you don't see on the back end is that store, that Walmart or that Target or that whoever in your area has those tens of thousands of products in store, but they're selling hundreds of thousands of products, or if not millions of products, on their website. So they have an individual SKU for each one of those products, an individual page for each one of those products, right? So there are people who are going out and when they're buying online, which we all know with the rise of online marketplaces, and the rise of quick shipping, more and more shopping is being done online. I mean, we could say this and we could repeat this video every year. It's going to continue that way, right? So each one of those SKUs has a page where someone can go out and leave a review. And if I'm brand A and I have 200,000 things on my website, 200,000 products and SKUs, and a customer comes and they're looking for, a razor, or they're looking for a bike, or they're looking for a specific type of grocery or a specific t-shirt or whatever you're selling, they're going to go and they're going to look at that product and they're going to look at two areas. They're going to look at questions and reviews, right? They're going to say, what other questions did people have? Because I probably have the same questions. Did the brand respond, and did they respond quickly? And then if I have a negative experience, right? I can't tell you how many people I talk to and brands I talk to and customers I talk to who say, well, when I go, I look at the reviews and I look and see what the majority, it's like 4.5 stars. Well, that means the majority of people left roughly an average of 4.5 stars. But what they're doing is they're sorting and they're saying, okay, let me see what happened when someone had a 1-star review or a 2-star review, right? Oh, well, there was bad shipment, or there was a bad return process, or something arrived broken, right? Well, they're not really looking for the issue. What they're looking for is, how did the brand respond? Can I buy this product and safely know that if something goes wrong, the brand is going to be there to quickly remedy that issue and get me the product that I paid for? So this is huge implications for brands as it relates to lifetime customer value, keeping those customers repurchasing, but also customer acquisition, bringing new customers in because they're moderating their online digital reputation.
But all these pieces, all these steps that you're describing here are exactly what brands are looking in terms of achieving this, localized globalization, where the individual location is part of the larger consistent customer experience, and it's also part of this empowering of the end user. Content moderation and community management are integral part of the effective social experience management. So not just for large social media networks, but across all the sectors. But it's also the area with the least satisfaction from brands. The typical satisfaction rate was hovering around 50%. So there is a lot of room for improvement. Probably the biggest differentiator for effective management in content moderation are the sector-specific knowledge and expertise of the team, and the ability to create a safe environment for the end user, but also for the content moderators. This is a key characteristic in choosing a supplier of social experience management services, and it often translates to domain and industry experience, the product and service knowledge of the language specific to the sector. Think of gaming, for example, right? Or pretty much every other sector, combined with the abilities to provide guidance via those playbooks and processes that you were describing. I think a good example is moderation in healthcare, life sciences, pharma as well, where the skilled healthcare experts and licensed professionals must deliver community management and moderation of user-generated content. And we had a very interesting quote directly from a healthcare executive who said directly, developing a social media policy and enforcing it is really challenging.
Yeah, I would say that this is one of the largest and fastest growing areas of social experience management. And we've seen that over the last several years. It used to be that it was just these large digital companies who had this excessive amount, the Facebooks and the Metas and for their online marketplace, and the Amazons for their online marketplace, who had this need for lots of manual and AI review of user-generated content and uploaded content, right? Whether that's someone who's selling something on an online marketplace that's prohibited, right? So maybe they're selling drugs, or they're selling firearms, things that should not be on those sites. And we have these, all of these brands put up their own community guidelines, but that doesn't mean that the hundreds of thousands or hundreds of millions of people who are on those sites are following those guidelines, right? So there comes this need for trained outsourced teams in large quantities to look at these, like I said, millions of pieces of uploaded content, sometimes every minute or hour, across some of these platforms. And while that has always traditionally been the area of focus because it was the biggest area of need, what we've seen now is that a lot of other brands are starting to launch their own online communities. Sometimes they've had them, but they've really refocused on those areas, and now the communities are growing. And as you said, areas like healthcare are a huge area of opportunity. We do online content moderation and community management for a number of brands, but when you get into areas that are heavily relegated, and also areas that have an emotional connection, right? You're not just buying a product, right? So from a healthcare perspective, it is an extension of your health and well-being, or And what we've seen a lot on the community management side and content moderation side is not just the need of the individual member or policyholder, it's the need of their family members as well, right? When you talk about Medicare and you talk about Medicaid and people who are online in those communities, it's not always the member. A lot of time the people who are looking for answers on those communities are family members who are trying to make sure they're taking care of their loved ones and understanding the coverage that they have, understanding the benefits they have so that they can make sure that their loved ones have the best well-being and best service and are fully utilizing everything that's at their disposal. So what we're there to do is to moderate that conversation, right? Look at the content that's being uploaded and make sure it's not always on the brand in this scenario, right? When we talk about social care and we talk about digital reputation management, you always want to respond quickly. But in this area, when we talk about building a playbook, we talk to brands and say, sometimes it's not best for you to respond first. Right? Sometimes you want others in the community to respond because what you're doing is you're creating a community marketplace and you're really creating community engagement. And then you're building up people who are brand loyalists to be experts for your brand. So really what you're training your community moderators and your content moderators to do is to look and to cultivate correct answers and correct path to resolutions and path to correct information, but you're also looking to help them cultivate the community, right? So sometimes it's not answering a question, it's answering a question with another question that gets the rest of the community involved. So, and you know, I feel the pain of that healthcare executive who says that this is a hard area to do because it really has to be a joint effort by your moderators and your content moderators and your community moderators and community managers and brand experts that live inside that brand to help build the best possible scenario for what that community looks like, right? There's going to be tons of opportunity for us to, you know, one side of that from a content perspective is very easy, right? There's a lot of growth in AI tools that will help you go in, you can basically train the AI tools on what to look for, whether that's pictorial or videography. They're looking at the video, they're looking at the photos, and does it in some way hit something that either red flags it or completely kicks it out? Or is it looking for certain text that red flags it or kicks it out? And then, you know, if you're kicking it out, no one needs to engage with that from a manual intervention perspective. But if it's a red flag, then someone needs to look at that content and respond. And that's what we're staffing teams to do in a unique and authentic way to the brand. But also, you know, it's not just your AI that's going to kick that stuff out. A lot of brands are giving other users ways to flag inappropriate content. So not everything always gets caught by your systems. So users flagging content for you, and then all of that flag content needs review as well. So there's such a need, and there's a need for cross-training because you're not just going to use them for that flagged content. You're going to use them for community cultivation as well, right?
No, that's a very interesting area, and I would say that all these expectations that AI will come and sort out the entire space is actually unfounded, because there are many aspects of how we communicate as species that are very difficult to apply it with with an artificial intelligence.
You know, Ivan, I would also say one of the things that we find that brand customers, whether they're current brand partners or prospective brand partners, tend to not think about, and this is something that's true for any type of AI or automation. What you're automating is always the easiest response, right? You hear people say low-hanging fruit. So when brands go in and they look at AI automation, whether it's on social or any other channel, what you're looking at the things that are easiest to automate, right? Because you're looking at the things that are easiest to answer. So it's like, okay, I'll get the customer to validate some kind of unique identifier. So maybe that's a membership number, maybe it's a card number, maybe it's their phone number. It could be something, but it's a way that we say, okay, you've been validated. Maybe you signed into their system. And then we're able to pull a number of things, right? Maybe we're able to pull their annual spend. We're able to pull, if it's medical, their medical coverage, or if it's e-commerce or retail, we can pull what they've recently bought. They're trying to return. Maybe it's a question about the return status. Maybe it's a question about account balance. But there's all these things that we can access very quickly and we can give to them. Well, we're automating that stuff, but what you don't realize a lot of time as a brand, you're automating the things that are the easiest for your engagement center and your contact center to answer. So what happens is you take that 20 or 30 or 40% of the engagement away because it's been automated, and now you say, okay, well, there's these real savings to that, and there are, but what's left is very difficult things to engage with, right? You're leaving the things. So it's going to take your agents longer on average because the things that were easier on average are now gone. So there's byproducts to that, right? And you talked about one of the areas for this content moderation community management is you want to make sure that you're constantly understanding the mental state of your agents, right? And you're doing your best to make sure that those agents are happy, they understand your culture, they understand the brand's culture that they're supporting. And when you're taking away the easy things, what you're doing is you're 90 to 100% of the engagements they're getting, whether it's on social or traditional call center channels, are more difficult for them, right? It's more strenuous for them. And then from a content moderation perspective, sometimes it's the things that they're seeing, right? Because it's the content that shouldn't be there. So they're seeing things that are prohibited. So you need to make sure that you're building into your playbook strategies to keep your agents happy, to keep your agents healthy, to keep your agents engaged, and really strategies to have those conversations open and freely so that you're developing alongside with your agents the best possible situation for them to be successful for the brand and them to be successful to themselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we'll come back to the topic of AI, of course. It's the perennial topic. It's on top of everyone's agenda today. But I just want to discuss a little bit the role of social media analytics and how it impacts pretty much all these areas of support that we mentioned across social care, reputation management, content moderation. The underlying need across all those is for increased use of analytics to develop greater insights, then drive business decision making based on those insights. But as well is to check and improve assumptions that R&D departments and brand managers are having. Brands want to be proactive, which requires moving from being data rich to insights rich. This development is most notable in the shift in the executives' thinking of social channels from predominantly support to sales channels. For example, their vision around the use of analytics for social listening now extends into the ability to target disgruntled customers of the competitors, with 76% of respondents placing this as a high priority in their targeting and engagement. Executives clearly understand that enhancing the targeting and effectiveness of campaigns is critical in achieving this next level of dynamic customization and personalization of campaigns. And social media empowers brands to have this individual conversation with prospects, but at scale.
Yeah, so I think that gets a little bit into a couple of areas, right? It's one of, when we meet on a regular basis, whether it's weekly, whether it's monthly, whether it's quarterly reviews, annual reviews with our clients, the number one thing we're asked for is analytics, right? Because like I said earlier, we're the ones who are talking directly to their customers. So we have a plethora of analytics. So yeah, we're going to give them if we're responding on social or we're responding on the phone or email, we're going to get all this data, right? So what are the people engaging with us on social about the most, right? And this is social is a channel, right? For us, it's all of social and social experience management is a channel, but we have multiple channels. So what we're able to do is we're able to say, okay, for your customers who are more digitally inclined who respond on social, this is their top 10 engagement drivers, right? And this is so at a first glance, we can give some very high level data, but what we really want to do is we want to be able to dig down and we want to be able to give insights that are actionable. Right? Telling someone that here's your top 5 engagement drivers, your top 5 topics that customers are engaging with, or top 20 or top 10 or whatever that is helpful. But if you're not providing them real feedback on what that means for their brand, so what are the pain points around those engagement drivers? What are things that we've seen that when the engagement driver is positive, what is that? So we're looking at sentiment now, not just engagement drivers, right? So when you're talking about returns process, I'm not just telling you that you have 10,000 people in this week who talk to you about returns. I'm telling you that 80% of them were negative, but on the 20% who engaged from a positive perspective, here's why. And we're giving you a driver for that so that we can make updates to procedures and policies so that 80% negative becomes 50 and then 40 and then eventually, hopefully most of that is gone, right? So, and then it's not just using what we would consider customer engagement analytics and traditional tools like the tools we talked about earlier, like the Sprinklers of the world, the Coroses, the Salesforce Social Studios. It's not just using their analytics that they have inherently and not just using regular call center Zendesks and Nice and Contacts and their analytics, but it's also using agency analytic tools like Meltwater, Brandwatch, so that when you go out, we see a lot of agency partners that we engage with along with our brands that are using these same tools like a Meltwater. And what they're doing is they're tracking the effectiveness of their campaigns, right? So they're saying, here is the content that we want you to post. We've agreed on this. We're making this beautiful brand content, these beautiful brand promotions, these beautiful TV commercials, radio commercials, and then we're going to track via these tools what the perception is on social media of these, and we're going to track and see, did we get an increase on brand reach or your audience size and all of these things. But what we do is we use those same agency tool sets and we specifically look at how it impacts customer service metrics. So when we use those tool sets and we build those complex Boolean queries, what we're looking for is we're looking for the ways that people are talking about your brand when they're talking about things related to customer service, because we're a customer service agency. And that's really how we're positioning ourselves around this digital reputation management, social media, customer service, whether it's content moderation. We're able to really utilize our analytics and say, this is what's out there. And then if you think about this, I'm sure that this would not come as a surprise to any brand watching this. Your agents who are taking all of these engagements at some point have a notes section, right? So there's a huge amount of info that probably can't be quantified that goes into a notes section, right? It didn't hit the reporting for topics, it didn't hit the reporting for anything else. But we're able to take unstructured text and we're also able to provide analytic work on unstructured text analytics. Similarly, like we pull it off of social media, we can pull it out of those social media notes when someone responds. So we're able to provide multi-level reporting that really provides, like I said, it's not just reporting for the sake of reporting, it's reporting for the sake of actionable insights.
Absolutely. No, that's a great view where the information is gathered not even at the 360 degrees across for the customer, but across the brand, the experience, the agent experience as well. So that's.
And then, I would say that one of the most impact, we've touched a little bit on social selling, and you talked a little bit about how, brands are targeting disgruntled customers of their competitors, and there's lots of that going on social, and we engage on campaigns on a regular basis similar to those. And there's ways to do that without being abrupt, and there's ways to do that without coming across like in a negative way. There's ways to do that positively, right? So if you are a automotive company and someone's having an issue with recalled parts, it doesn't have to be calling attention to that. We've just noticed that, and now you're in this lead bucket for us. And now we're engaging with you and we're making sure you're getting content about our reliability, right? Or maybe it's something where you're a company that sells automotive repair, and we're selling a tire that is a run flat tire. And we noticed that now you're talking about having a flat tire on the side of the road. Well, how interesting is it for us to engage with you and talk about our product that would not happen with? So there's lots of ways to engage with that. And then there's also lots of ways to quantify that the impact that you have, whether it's unique URLs for purchase that track back to your social experience management team, whether it's unique couponing, or even like digital couponing, or even putting markers in the system around that specific customer. So when they actually convert and eventually, within a 2-week period or a 30-day period, we know that they've converted and they've come in for that sale because of the campaign that we've done. And we call that matchback reporting, right? So we're able to quantify, we're not a cost center anymore, right? We're a revenue center. We're able to quantify just how much extra revenue our team is bringing in for your brand.
So let's look a little bit to the future of social experience management. As we interviewed clients, we asked them, of course, are they planning to invest? And 89% have a very direct response that they're enhancing their social experience management in the next 12 months. Close to 3/4 will involve a third party in this process, so that's very positive news. The big unknown, however, across pretty much all the areas of social experience management is the impact of AI, especially Gen AI. And we talked about this. CX leaders see the role of Gen AI across customer services with many existing human-led CX activities being gradually replaced by automated tools. As we said, it's already happening on social channels as well. And the surveyed executives expect GenAI to play a critical element in their future social experience management operational models. They expect it to increase the speed and the volume of social communication and make it more personalized. I would say that as we adopt more AI into our social experience management, the lessons from kind of past integrations of RPA and intelligent automation show that operations need a unified approach where GenAI is part of the solution and not the answer itself. Clients are looking for guidance and advisory services in the space and to achieve this return on investment from GenAI, very similar to what you're describing with your proactive engagement on social channels. And vendors and clients kind of need to work together towards integrating GenAI in their playbooks, in their management tools. If necessary, reorganize the existing CX infrastructure for social experience management, add it to the agent training and upskilling, and build use cases in areas like content development, analytics and insights, customer-facing solutions. So tell us about ResultsCX vision for the space, where the investment's going for the company, and kind of even what's your take on GenAI for social experience management?
Yeah, I think you hit on a lot of good topics there when you're kind of discussing that. There is not a brand that we talk to today that doesn't talk about GenAI, right? Because it's at the top of everyone's list. By now, most people have engaged with OpenAI, ChatGPT, and they've realized that, 5 years ago, AI was something that it is not now. What we have now is functional, it's usable, it's relevant to your brands, and it's not as, there's not as much need for customization on the back end, right? Because we have a conversational generative landscape that we can work with that has become very effective and continues to become more effective. For us, where we really see this going, I think you brought up a great point where you said the generative AI and bots are not going to handle the bulk of the business, right? They're going to handle a lot. They're going to handle a lot of what we talked about earlier, which is the easier low-hanging fruit, where they're able to do a web service call or an API feed into personalized data for you and be able to bring you back information updates on your accounts and information updates on things that are specific to you as it relates to that brand. There's always going to be a little bit of depersonalization, regardless of how much you try to build that out. I think the real need for brands is to have a partner who can integrate that into a playbook and then also set guardrails for those bots. So a partner who knows what a bot needs in order to be successful from a customer service perspective. And what I mean when I say that is that, you have to give the bot great knowledge, right? A good LLM, like there really has to be great knowledge behind that. And it's not just your typical FAQs or knowledge base that you would normally see. It's really a lot around what your brand has to do from a knowledge-based experience perspective. So building and cultivating that has been something that we've done at ResultsCX for the better part of multiple decades now, right? So we work with brands and we say, okay, well, when someone has something to do with Medicare or Medicaid, here are the things that we need to build. And like we talked about earlier, it's that 80-20 rule. 80% is going to be in that knowledge, right? And then the extra 20% is going to be stuff that's new. And if it's new, the bot's not going to have answers for it, right? Just like our agents wouldn't have answers for it. So when we get that knowledge, one of the main areas for us is to continually to maintain the knowledge that these AIs access so that the knowledge is always correct and it's always updated. So maybe that's brand new promotions, maybe it's changes to existing knowledge because you've had a policy or procedure change. But if your knowledge, I think a lot of brands see this as like a set it and forget it, and it's absolutely not. It is a continual involvement. You have to have resources behind your generative AI or it's not going to work successfully for your brand. You need to be constantly moderating and updating and cultivating the knowledge that's behind that generative AI so that when it responds, it's responding correctly, because what it said last week might not be true today. So, and healthcare plans change, right? Your credit card stuff changes if you're a BFSI company. Your policies and procedures from a retail perspective change, right? Like, who would have thought that COVID would have happened? But how many on-site retail changes did we have during COVID that one week would have been right and the next week would have been wrong and the week after that would have been wrong? So we have this new emerging area, but really you need a brand partner to set with you and guide you through that area. And then inevitably the bots are not going to have, and generative AI is not going to have the answers for everything. So what you need someone skilled enough to take a direct handoff to understand what that conversation with that generative AI has already been, so that you're not just repeating everything. I think the one thing that consumers hate the most is that they hate to go in and have a conversation and then get transferred somewhere else. And then they have that same conversation again and they get transferred. So if you're having a conversation with the bot, it's no different if you're being transferred from, maybe it's a WhatsApp for Business or Apple Business Chat conversation with the bot. And now there's a need for manual agent intervention here, and you're being passed off. So it's keeping that conversation seamless, right? Having a partner who is skilled enough to have the technology and the expertise to keep that conversation seamless, and also the technology and expertise to make sure that if the bot can answer it, it does.
Thank you. That's a great approach, great vision for the effective integration of Gen AI into a truly comprehensive social media experience strategy. Part of the larger picture. We might say, an essential part down the road, but still a part of the larger capability that a player like ResultsCX need to have.
Absolutely. Part of the larger trust and safety umbrella, right? Trust and safety is huge right now for all brands, and it's just growing. Whether that's fraud services. I mean, all of these areas in trust and safety that social experience management sets under as a product set. All of these areas are so pivotal to your customer service strategy, right? So having brands who have expertise under that, the moderation of different types of content, working with your cross-functional teams from a PR perspective, from a, you're even looking at things like reviews on your iOS store app and reviews on your Amazon Marketplace app, right? What we see a lot of times is there's a PR team doing stuff on certain sites, and you have a brand has a tech team who's moderating reviews for the app reviews that come in, and then you've got these teams, and you end up with all these disparate teams, and some of them are answering a lot of the same questions. And centralizing that and building brand partnerships at your brand level with your customer service agency, it really can take what you're doing to the next level while saving you money, which there's not a lot of stuff in business where you can say that's true.
Absolutely. No, and I'll use the opportunity to wrap it up here with this very strong statement, and I would love to repeat it, that this is part of the, creating brand partnerships with the ability to generate, revenue for the client. So that's great to hear. Thank you very much, Roger. I appreciate the opportunity, and I think we had some very interesting insights from your side. And again, appreciate the opportunity to talk to you.
Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, Ivan. Thank you.
Roger.